Hello and welcome to Cheshire Audio. Now today's going to be a review of the Ifi Zen Phono stage. I should say it's take two actually, because I did a 15-minute video. Very proud of it. Did it in one take. Some of my best work, I've got to say. And I just forgot to switch the microphone on, so completely wasted. So here I am again, fresh cup of tea because the other one went cold. Ifi Zen Phono. I've been meaning to do this one for a while actually. I mean, it's a great little phono stage, and I've not really talked about it. It's on the website. Difficult to find because it's pretty much the only product from Hi-Fi I do. Other than, believe it or not, I actually do the Zen Blue as well, which is the Bluetooth receiver, which is completely against all my sort of ethos of sending digital mute, whatever. But it works quite well. It's great for background music, and some people want to send music from the phone, so it's a solution. But it's really nice. It works really well. Similarly, the Zen Phono, it's a great little phono stage actually. I think it's a bit overblown by sort of forums and things. People are sort of trying to make out it's a big, real sort of giant killer. I don't think it's that, but it is. It's sound-wise, I say it's probably placed within the marketplace where you'd expect it to be. It's priced between a Riga Phono MM and things like the little Project Phono, what's it called? The Project MM and the Riga A to D level. So it's between that, and it's probably performance-wise between them as well. What I would say is, though, specification-wise, it wipes the floor with them, because it's got so much stuff going on there. Not everything, but it's got some interesting features. Whether they're valid in a phono stage at that price, we'll talk about later on. But first, what I want to do is sort of just open up, do a little unboxing, and do what's in the box sort of scenario. I do feel as though, and I must admit, in the early days when I sort of started to see Hi-Fi around, they tended to just appear at Hi-Fi shows, and they'd have a little stall and all these really pretty little products that seemed way too cheap, and I kind of dismissed them a little bit, thinking, well, they look great, and you're making big claims, but they can't be any good because they're too cheap. I was a bit of a fool, really. I should have pursued it. Should have sort of asked questions and got, to try things. But I learned in the end. I managed to get hold of a few bits of Hi-Fi, and it's all really well made. It's all really well made and works really well. It's not a Chinese-based company that's whatever. It's Chinese made, but Hi-Fi themselves are in Southport. They're a British company, British designs, some very clever stuff going on. When you look at some of their products, some of the design stuff going on is genius. It's really clever. So anyway, I discovered them. I thought basically they were picked up by a distribution company who sort of got a little bit more presence in the market for them, and I think that helped, because just going to shows and having a stall at a Hi-Fi show isn't going to, sort of lead to world domination particularly. But no, they've got a decent distribution behind them, so you've got somebody to talk to if there's any problems, whatever. It works really well. So anyway, let's open the box and see what's inside. Okay, yeah, the Ifi Zen Phono, beautifully packaged. I mean, it's unusual in this industry to see such attention to detail just on the packaging, really. So a picture on the front, picture of the back panel, and then we've got all the specs on the back there. I must admit, I think the picture on the front doesn't do it any justice. It makes it look a bit like a sort of cheapish plastic box, which it isn't at all. And I seem to remember when I was initially thinking about getting this in, I'd only seen pictures of it on the website. I thought I must get one of those to try, and I kept looking at it thinking, oh, it looks terrible though, doesn't it? It isn't. We'll see. We'll do an unboxing in a second. We'll see. It's not. It's really nicely made. It is quite pretty. Anyway, or better talk about, just in case somebody sort of ventured in here and wonders what I'm talking about, what's a phono stage? It's a very specific circuit that you need if you've got a record player. Because stereo amplifiers are designed to amplify line level. So CD players, tuners, cassette decks, even the audio output of the analog output of a mobile phone and the analog outputs from streamers are all line level. So that's what an amplifier will amplify. It can't amplify enough a record player, because record player's output is multiples less than line level. It needs another circuit before it, like this, to bring it up to line level. So the record player plugs into a phono circuit, that outputs line level, and then the amplifier amplifies that. Years ago, this circuit would have been within the amplifier. There'd be a specific socket on the back of the amplifier where you plugged your record player. It would go into the amplifier, the signal would go into the amplifier, go through a phono circuit, be amplified up to line level, then the amplifier would amplify it. All the other sockets, you could plug anything you wanted to, so your CD players, your tuners, your tape decks, wherever you wanted, because it was all the same. But if you plug a record player into line level, you can barely hear it. And I'm hearing this story a lot, actually. People who've got the record players out of the loft, and they've updated the amplifier that they had years ago, and now they've got something more modern. But a lot of manufacturers dropped off the record player circuit when they thought the record players were dead. So it'll just be a line level amplifier, and they're plugging it in saying, I think the record player's faulty, it's really quiet. And it's because they haven't got a phono circuit. Now, it's coming back in again. There's a lot of amplifiers now do have built-in phono circuits again. But if you haven't, you buy one of these. If you want to improve on, say you've got a very budget amplifier and you just want something better, you can buy the external. There's an argument for external phono stages because they're away from all the noise. Because it is such a low-level signal that they amplify, they're very susceptible to noise. So if you can keep them out of the amplifier, it's better. So there is an argument for buying one of these, even if you've got a phono stage, because keeping it away makes it sound better. It depends how into it you are, really, but it's one of those things. Anyway, let's open this up and have a look inside. We'll talk about features, then we'll talk about what it sounded like, because big things have been said about this online. There's a lot of interest in it, and I just want to just try to quantify that and put it into perspective. And anyway, let's turn the camera around. Actually, I didn't really need to turn it around. We just positioned it slightly differently so we can see better. Yeah, outer sleeve. And inside we've got like white box, quite solidly made white box, to be honest. All these little bits of instructions. There's a spec sheet on there, which I might refer to in a minute because I can never remember the specifics. Warranty card. There's the little unit itself, and a nice little polythene box, bag, and a little accessory box. I'll just stick there, put that out of the way. Now, like I say, this thing is actually quite beautifully made. It's sort of folded metal casework, brushed aluminium front panel. It is quite a pretty little thing. It's nothing like the photo. I don't know how they've managed to make it look so awful in the pictures, to be honest. Nice little clicky buttons. The back panel we've got inputs, outputs, ground. These have got little covers on to protect them, which is pointless but a nice touch, I suppose. I'll look at features in there a little bit more closely in a minute. What's interesting about this is it's got. With phono stages, because of the different types of cartridges that you put into a record player, you need different types. The really common one is moving magnet. Pretty much maybe as much as 98% of record players out there use moving magnet. Might be more actually. And that's sort of from the budget end to, you can spend between, £20 to £1,000 on a moving magnet cartridge. So it covers most people's needs really. A moving magnet is a slightly higher output, so you would need a moving magnet phono stage. If you get into moving coil's probably £200 up to, I don't know, 10,000, whatever, 12,000. I think I've seen them at. Much lower output generally. I'll talk about that again in a sec because it's not a consistent thing that. So in which case you will buy a moving coil phono stage. Occasionally you get switchable units. They're not always that successful. Sometimes at the cheaper end they tend to be they're sort of done in weird ways, and it's not really a great way of doing it. Usually the moving coil is a bit of an afterthought. The Ifi is switchable, and the moving coil side of it is actually quite good. It's a proper circuit. It does work really well. Interestingly, they've done it in a slightly different way. Now, I was talking about moving coil and there being sort of different increments of that really. You can buy moving coil cartridges which are high output, and the theory of those is you can plug them into a moving magnet input. So they're high enough output. They put more windings on the coils, and they get a higher output from it. The theory is you should be able to plug that into moving magnet. Generally, they're a little bit too quiet for it. It works, but you find you have to turn them up a little bit. And amplifiers will have a gain setting for that, so you can actually boost them a little bit more on moving coil. They've actually, on the back of the Ifi, they've actually done it in a slightly different way. We've got a moving magnet setting, we've got moving coil setting, standard moving coil. We've actually got high output moving coil setting, so it's still calling it moving coil, but it's getting up towards moving magnet. We've also got low output moving coil, because there are some extremely low output moving coils. I mean, I'm thinking 1/4 of a millivolt sort of output or less. I think the standard is about 1/2 millivolt. This is what I have to refer to. I can never remember. I don't know why. I've been dealing with this sort of thing for so long, and I can never remember the actual voltage. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think it's about 1/2 millivolt. With is sort of seen as standard. Yeah, standard MC, half millivolt, very low, 0.25 millivolt. So it's covering all sorts of eventualities. In most phono stages, we just have what they call a gain switch, and you just go high, medium, low, or whatever on there. But this is actually making it a little bit more sort of understandable, I suppose, really, where you might want to go with it. It's also got, weirdly, I don't know if you can see that, there's a 4.4 mil balanced output as well, which I don't think I've ever seen on a phono stage. I mean, I've seen balanced using XLRs or whatever. That's quite rare, but the 4.4 mil, that's unusual, because it apparently is balanced construction internally. There's an awful lot of care and attention gone into this. It's not just a chip with a power supply and a few components on it. It's a properly designed circuit. That's your input for your little wall wart, which I'll show you in a sec. I'll just unbox the accessory pack in a minute. And that's it, really. It's very straightforward. You've got your little covers on there. You've got your ins and outs. So you plug your record player. Oh dear, I can't see. Plug your record player into there, and a cable from out of there, which I'll show you in a sec because it comes with one. That goes out to your amplifier. Let's just have a look at the accessory pack just to show what's involved with that. So yeah, actually it comes with a little lead, not a particularly wonderful one, but it'll get you going. Upgrading that in the future will pay dividends, really. And then you've got in here, there's also a wall wart power supply. You can't really get away from these things nowadays. I mean, they're not brilliant, but it does the job. That plugs in on the end of there. So there you go. Performance-wise, it's interesting this, because, like I say, internet-wise, people have really gone overboard on it. Using the phrase "giant killer," and I've even seen people saying it's as good as some £1,000 phone. It isn't really. It's not up there. But what is interesting about it is, I don't know why I'm boxing this up on camera. It's the OCD in me. I can't stand it sitting there unboxed. What's interesting about it, though, is it's better than your sort of £100 phono stages, so your Riga A to D Project Phono box. I actually probably prefer this, and I shouldn't say it on camera. Probably I prefer it to the tube box from Project, really, which is more expensive than this. It isn't as good as things like the Riga Phono MM or Phono MC, but it's got MM and MC. So if you're thinking of possibly upgrading in the future, it might be a thing to look at. The only thing I'd say about that is, though, generally, I think because there's such a big range of moving magnet cartridges, moving coil at the low end don't necessarily perform as well as you would expect. There's some around the sort of 200, 300, which are okay, but they're not. In some ways, a decent moving magnet at that sort of money might suit you better. And I think, to be honest, if you were spending the sort of money on moving coil that you need to spend, you probably wouldn't have a £150 phono stage. Where this comes in, and this is probably the main reason I bought this in, is it's the same old story. It's for people when they're when they've pulled the record player out of the loft. And I've had this so many times recently. Started off being Rigas, and now it's people who've discovered their old Thorons in the loft, or their old Sondek that they haven't used for years, or a Roxanne Xerxes, or whatever. And it's got a moving coil on it. And they want to rekindle their record collection. They want to get back into it, but they don't want to spend any money because they already got a system. They've already got a record player. Why would they need to do anything? But then they realise they haven't got a phono stage, and to buy a moving coil phono stage of any sort of quality is quite a bit of money. The other option is to change your cartridge. This is where this kind of comes in, because it's a decent moving coil phono stage for not a lot of money, really. I mean, it's great. It works really well. To be honest, if you had a Lynn Sondek with a £400 or £500 moving coil on, which is the sort of things that are appearing through the door here, if you're looking at these sort of things new, you wouldn't buy a £150 phono stage for it. You'd have something at 500, 600, 800, 1,000, that sort of level. But for the people, like I say, who just pull the thing out of the loft, they want to make it work. It works. This is really good. It works really well. And if they get into it, then they can perhaps think about getting a better one. Or if they wanted to change, if perhaps they find out the cartridge is worn out and they want to just then stick a moving magnet in it, it still works. So you can just switch it into moving magnet. So I stock this for a slightly bizarre reason. I think it stands up really well. If you just want for a moving magnet, it's up there with the best of them out there at the moment, really. It sits at £150, it's about right. It's not quite as good as your Riga Phono, but it's better than the mundane budget stuff that you can buy, the get-you-going stuff. It's above that. Sound quality-wise, it's interesting because it's not... I expected it to be a bit soft and a bit uninteresting, but it isn't. It's quite clear, and it's the only thing you could possibly level at it, I suppose, is it can get a bit bright sometimes. I mean, compared to things, actually, even compared to things like the Riga A2D, it's slightly bright compared to that, but it's better definition, better 3D sort of image off, output wise. You get a better sound stage off it. It sounds like a decent quality phono stage, until you listen to something like Phono MM or a Lehman statement or something like that, which is just so much more refined, so much more sort of natural than this is. But for £150, who's to argue, really? Because it gives you all this flexibility. Whatever cartridge you may have, I've got customers who've got boxes full of cartridges that they want to try. This will cover all of them. Your high output moving coils, low output moving coils, your moving magnets, everything. It hasn't got any loading on it, but then again, at this sort of money, I'm surprised it's even got gain, which is basically what that is. So no, good value. I think it's a great little product, and yeah, really, I'd use one, to be honest. I would use one if I was trying to save a bit of money and just wanted to get an old deck running. I think it's fine. So let's turn the camera around. Yeah, so it's a great product, really. I mean, it fits in. I've sort of built a range of phono stages in the shop, and it fits in really well. For various reasons, actually. I mean, sound quality-wise, I'd say it does fit between what you could almost unkindly call the mundane end, which are the get-you-going stuff, the Riga A2D, the Project MM, which are just basically there as a solution for people who haven't got a phono stage and they need a cheap solution to it. I'm not saying they're bad, it's just that they are basically a solution. They're not really audiophile products particularly. They do the job and they do it quite well, but the step up to a couple of £100 plus is massive when you go to Riga, Phono MM, Phono MC, the Lehman statement. There's quite a few sort of above the £200 mark, which you can tell you're into proper sort of audiophile territory with them, because you've got the refinement, the naturalness, the musicality, all that sort of thing. Interestingly, Ifi is closer to them than it is to the sort of mundane end, I'd say. It's nice and open and it's detailed. It hasn't got the musical sort of insight that things like the Rigas have got. It hasn't got that kind of scale of sound stage and the naturalness of it, but it does a pretty good job, really. But also it's got all the features on it. So generally, I'd see it suiting people who kind of need the features, who've, like I said before, who've pulled the turntable out of the loft and it's got a moving coil on it, and they really don't want to spend loads of money. And they want the opportunity, if they need to change the cartridge because it's been in the loft for 20 years, to then step back down to moving magnet. So it's got its place in the range, and it's superb, I think, in that. I think it's a really worthwhile product to have in the range here. And for that reason, I did the video. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Sorry this is taking so long. I've done very few videos this month, and March was extremely busy. And I'm still sort of almost reeling from the after effects of that. It's gone quieter now, hence video now. To be honest, this has taken 3 days to film. I had the initial problem of doing a straight one-take recording and forgetting to switch the mic on. And then since then, it's just been, I shouldn't call them interruptions, but it's just other things happening in the shop. The phone ringing, deliveries turning up, me needing to rush out to the DPD to drop parcels off, customers coming in, having chats with customers, all this sort of thing. And I've just done little snippets and ended up scrapping bits because I'd forgotten what I'd said and all that sort of thing. So eventually, we had a video, and here it is. Hope you like it. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a like. And I'll see you in a future video, hopefully a bit sooner than it was last time. Thank you very much.